Shalom Akim, Shalom Akwathiam. Call Halal Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rakah Kwadash, and double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. The scriptures tells us, by our words shall we be condemned, or by our words shall we be justified. I'm sure many brothers can recall when the illustrious leader and king of IUIC, Bishop Nate, made the bold proclamation that the MOTB spoken of in the book of Revelations, the 13th chapter, is not the microchip. And if you're unawares when this occurred, I have this short here to bring you up to speed. And it's valid because he continues to teach this to his congregation to this very day. I want to allow this to play momentarily, but before I do that, the water and Baraka Thumb to the apostles and elders and the beloved brothers of Great Millstone, because early on in my walk, I was once in this space where I did not believe this to be the truth. But now, by way of the Holy Spirit, the Rakah Kwadash, I see it clearly. The scriptures tells us, and I'm going to say this, just loosely paraphrasing, does Israel obtaineth what it seeketh for? The election have obtained it. Obtained what? The correct knowledge and understanding. And the rest were blinded. And hopefully, Lord willing, Yahweh Ratazah, I'm of that number. And you are too as well. Listen closely, and I'll chime in momentarily.
Okay, the 500, this is the IUIC update where we're in June 2016. Ain't no microchip. Ain't no microchip. It's June. Ain't no microchip. Ain't no microchips. It's June. Somebody should put a beat to that shit. Lord, come to pass. We in June. Ain't no microchips. We in June. Ain't no microchips. Chips.
Now, if you're looking at the screen, as you can see there to the right behind the news anchor, it states the future of everything. And as I mentioned previously on this channel, this is the device that's spoken of in Revelation, the 13th chapter, that you're going to need to function in an upcoming society in the new world order. All right. It states in the caption, FDA allows Neuralink to implant second patient with brain chip. I have an article and a few precepts to tie into this lesson. Before I play this video, let me do this, right? Because there's a direct parallel between Matthew, the 26th chapter, and Revelation, the 3rd chapter and the 10th verse. And why do I say that? And it reads, watch and pray that ye enter not into temptation. I want to put the focus on the word temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. Let's go from directly there to Revelation, the 3rd chapter and the 10th verse. Because thou hast kept the word of my patience. What word? The word he gave to us back in Matthew, right? I will also keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world to try them that dwell upon the earth. Now let's look this word up, temptation. And you can do this in either verse in the blue letter, because this group admittedly does not go into the Hebrew or the Greek. So I have that verse pulled up in the blue letter, again, putting the focus on the word temptation. And what do we see here, right? What is the Lord actually saying? He says, I will keep you from what? An experiment or an attempt, a trial, a probing. Let's go a little bit further, right? I will keep you from an attempt or what? An endeavor. Let's go a little bit further, and it states, what is the Lord saying to us? Through the idea of piercing. So now you can come back to either one of those verses and read them again with that understanding. Because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I will also keep thee from the hour of what? Piercing, which shall come upon the whole world to try them that dwell upon the earth. Now let's come out of this here, right? And let's go back to that update regarding this device that you're going to need to function in the upcoming society, that's going to need to pierce your body for you to have it.
And in the ever-evolving world of telepathy, yes, telepathy, it looks like at least one more person will soon be able to control a computer just by thinking about it, because a Wall Street Journal is reporting that the FDA is now giving Neuralink the go-ahead to implant a second patient this summer, despite some issues reported with the first one earlier this year. And this time they're planning on embedding the quarter-sized chip a little bit deeper into that human brain to...
Now you heard what they said. Despite having issues, they're going to go deeper into the brain. This article here states Neuralink says they're looking to implant next to participants in the coming months. You see? All right, but let's proceed.
Prevent it from retracting, which is what happened to Nolan Arbaugh, who a month after his surgery in January started noticing some issues with the signals that allowed him to control a mouse cursor using just his brain. But Arbaugh says Neuralink was able to fix the issue without doing surgery.
There's no reason to put me through another brain surgery if they could recover any sort of performance, which they were absolutely able to do. They worked around that and they found a way to make it better again, and now it's better than what it was before the thread retraction.
With just a software update, wild stuff. NBC News medical fellow Dr. Akshay Syal joins us now. Dr. Syal, so Neuralink is saying that they're going to embed those tiny wires deeper into the brain. I mean, that is such a complex surgery. How does that work?
Well, it's not complex, especially if we be of the elect, right? We understand that the scriptures tells us in the book of Leviticus, make no cuttings in thine flesh, okay? For groups that teaches you to keep the laws, the statutes, and the commandments. And one of the commandments is that you should not make any cuttings in your flesh, but then they turn around and teach you that the MOTB is not to see him. It's a walking contradiction. And your very souls are at stake. This is the device that Revelation, the 13th chapter, the 16th and the 17th verse is referring to, people. And he calls it all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond. Again, as I mentioned before, it covers everyone to receive a mark in their hand or in their foreheads. Now listen to what they're saying about this device. It's going to go in your head.
It is, Gotti, and I think the best way to sort of understand this is if we could pull that image of the device up again, and really to simplify it here, Gotti, the device has a quarter-sized computer that's really extended by about 64 threads here. You can see each one's actually smaller than a human hair. And the quarter-sized computer that you see lies closer to the skull, and those threads or those little projections go into the brain. And what they said, Gotti, with the first patient, with Mr. Nolan Arbaugh, you heard there, is that the brain shifted a little bit, and some of those threads got displaced. I think only about 15% of the threads that he had initially in the right place are actually in the right place now. So we're going ahead and we're hearing that Neuralink is about to try this in another patient, and one of the changes they're making in tandem with the FDA is actually putting those threads a little bit deeper, so less likely for them to get dislodged or displaced in the brain, Gotti.
That is wild. 15%, and they're still able to push software updates to make it work. They basically fix these issues through this system upgrade, but how do you upgrade, I don't know, the software that's interfacing with the brain?
Yeah, I think the best way to think of it is kind of like a smartphone, where you have the hardware or the iPhone and the software, iOS, that runs on it. If there's a problem in something going on, you can kind of troubleshoot, see, is it a hardware problem, is it a software problem? And sometimes you can fix one and make up for deficiencies in the other. And Gotti, that's essentially what they did. So what they found was that a lot of those threads weren't in the right place, so they tweaked the algorithm a little bit. I think the way it's being described is it made it a little bit more sensitive to activity of the cells in the brain. And by fixing it on the software side, they were able to make up for that deficiency on the hardware side. And you can see that he's able to demonstrate movement again, just like he was back when the chip was first implanted.
Now, I went into that word mark in Revelation, the 13th chapter. And what does it state? What does it say there? Right? It states charagma, right? And it means a stamp or an imprinted mark. Let's go a little bit deeper into the word there, right? It goes, charagma goes into the word charax, and that goes into a pale, a stake, or a palisade. Now, what is a palisade? A palisade is something that pierces you. Okay? If the Spirit is working with you, this should be very plain, very easy to understand and comprehend. All right?
That's fascinating. And Neuralink is saying that they've had thousands of quadriplegics sign up for the registry to see if they could possibly be eligible. Less than 100 qualify right now. Why is that? What is the qualification for somebody to partake in something like this?
Yeah, so they've asked a lot of people to apply and build this sort of patient registry database. But Gotti, whenever we're doing clinical trials, we hear about inclusion criteria and exclusion criteria. Essentially, there's certain things that if patients have some of these features, they're not allowed to be in the trial. And just...
You know what? Let me say this while it's on my mind to say as well, too, brothers. It wouldn't surprise me. Just like in that movie, they cloned Tyrone. where there's a underground laboratory somewhere with 20,000 people, you know, with from all sorts of walks of life and backgrounds and demographics that they're experimenting on. This is just what they're telling you. All right.
Looking at the Neuralink website, some of those things, you know, if they had a pacemaker, for example, put in, or if they have a seizure disorder, if they have conditions where they have to get a lot of MRIs, they wouldn't be able to be a part of this. And that's what I think is going on, is that a lot of people are, you know, meet the criteria for being either quadriplegic or paraplegic from, you know, a spinal cord injury like a diving accident, or ALS, a motor neuron disease. But because of some other things that they may have as well, they aren't able to be a part of this innovative trial.
And I know that Neuralink is hoping to implant 10 people by the end of this year. Do you think that that's possible? Does that seem realistic?
It does. You know, the site that's been announced with the first patient, Mr. Arbo, is Barrow Neurological Institute in Arizona. I actually used to work there back in high school and college. They are one of the best in the country, if not the best neurosurgery program. So the fact that they are leading this is, I think, going to make a lot more people feel comfortable about it, and a lot more people want to get involved. And you're seeing, you know, Mass General Brigham at Harvard Medical School also launching a brain-computer interface program. So I think there's a lot of excitement behind this and a lot of respectable big-name players. So I do think it's reasonable, and I'm excited for what's ahead, Gotti.
Now, I stopped it there because if you were listening, they stated Harvard is working on this too as well. And you can look this up in your own time too as well, brothers. I mentioned this before on this channel also. There are 5, 6, 7 companies additionally that's working on this device as well. Okay? This is why Yahweh Shai told us to watch as well as pray. All right? And if we are of the elect, he's going to keep us from the hour of piercing. Hopefully this was edifying. Shalom.